Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Athletes Are Human First podcast. I have a very special guest with me here today, and I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself.
Thanks so much. Hi, I'm Coach Emily Schaefer. I'm the head coach at College of Marin. I also work exclusively with basketball student athletes through 360 Hoop Athletes. And I'm just excited to be here and talk about how we can help some of our hoopers be, in the right place as they navigate that recruiting path and find the right fit.
Yeah, I love it. The kids, all the help is going to be, super beneficial for them, for their parents, and just helping them with that whole recruitment process. Let's start a little bit about your basketball career background. So tell me a little bit about like your playing career, because people probably don't know you played college basketball and everything. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I did. It was a little while ago. But I was really lucky to have the experience of playing at one of the California JUCO. So I actually played at Butte College, and after Butte College, transferred to Cal State East Bay, which I also had a great experience playing there. Very, very fortunate to play under some really great coaches where I was able to learn. Most of whom I still have very good relationships with today. They've kind of helped me along my not only basketball career but coaching journey. So that's been pretty special. I was fortunate enough to be able to go back to East Bay and start my college coaching career there under like a very knowledgeable and well-known head coach, and that was um, just a great experience. And then was able to continue coaching at the Division II level for another 4 years before moving to the head coaching spot here at College of Marin.
Yeah, tell me about like when you play for a college and then you go back to coach at that school. To me, that always says a lot about the program, about the coaching staff, because you actually want to go back to coach with them, learn from them. Tell me a little bit about like, did you always know you wanted to coach after playing basketball, or how did that come about?
Yeah, I actually knew from a really young age that I wanted to coach and teach in some capacity. I think it was I was a coach's kid. My dad coached for over 40 years, basketball and golf at a variety of different levels. He was actually a longtime assistant of mine here at College of Marin. And yeah, so I saw kind of the impact and experience he had, and just basketball is a really beautiful game. I've been passionate about it for a long time. So to be able to give back to young women and in a way that people helped me when I was 18 through 23 years old, I think it's just very impactful. And there's so much space for us to be able to help these young women as they kind of navigate, playing basketball, going to school, and then starting a career. I just hope that I can do as well as some of my coaches did to help with that.
Talk a little bit about College of Marin, where you're at now.
Yeah, so we're a junior college, just located just north of San Francisco. So awesome location. We This is my seventh season here, so we're looking to continue to build the culture here and the foundation. When I took over the program in 2019, there actually wasn't a basketball program, so had the opportunity to build the foundation and cultivate the type of culture that we wanted. Been really lucky to have great assistant coaches to help me do that too. I mean, I think that any head coach knows that's incredibly key is to have your own support system built in when you're trying to do something like that. But our players really carry the culture. They're a huge part in our recruitment process when we're looking to bring in new players. I think it's very important um, to be not only the right, fit for a program. Like a player can have the right skill set, they can have what we want, but I think it's important for them to get to know some of the people that they're going to be spending a lot of time with. I think that goes into the fit. I think it plays into the team's chemistry and, get there's a lot to be said for players getting along with each other, which doesn't always happen 100% of the time. I think a little, healthy disagreement here and there is good, but they really drive that and help the coaching staff decide, who they think would be a good fit for the program when they're here.
I think that's huge, right? To have the kids currently playing be part of the recruitment process, right? Because they are the ones that are going to be playing with that incoming group. You have a strong culture that you've been building, and you don't want anyone to come in and break that culture, right? So it's really
Right.
important to make sure that they're going to be a good fit, and it's really for all parties, right? The incoming
Yeah.
person, the returners, but also you guys as coaching staff as well. Like finding that right fit is so important for college basketball. Talk a little bit. I mean, you've helped a lot of kids. Talk a little bit about like what does that mean to find the right fit?
Yeah, there's a lot of pieces that go into it and very individually based, right? I mean, what makes it the right fit for some people may not matter to others, right? So I think the first important piece of it is to have an open conversation with the athlete and the parent about what that fit looks like. A
Mhm.
lot of times, the student athlete may not be aware that finances play a very big role in, what's going to be a good fit, right? So I think that conversation is very key, but it can be anything from location, right? We're located in California. Sometimes California kids don't want to leave California.
Mhm.
So, taking that into consideration when they're looking at, where they want to go, where they want to play. I think finding the right fit as far as level. Some players can go and play at a mid major D1, or they could go to a very high level D2 and have great experiences at either one, but it's, what do you want out of
Yep.
your competitive experience, right? So there's a fit in that way. And then I think, our players will say it comes down to the vibe, right? It's all about the vibe. Like, what's the vibe with the team? And I think as a head coach recruiting, that's a question I get a lot. Like, well, what's your team like? Do they hang out like outside of practice? Do they do this? Do they do that? And so on our recruiting visits, it's the vibe. It's the vibe that the recruit's giving out. Are they feeling what the team's doing, or are they just like, okay, I do not want to hang around these people? You can kind
Yeah.
of get a feel for if it is a true fit, or early on, in a visit. But I think a lot of those things come into play, and that's just after the coaching staff has evaluated, identified that talent, and they're like, okay, this is the person that we think, their strengths are going to help us. And that's after all of that is completed. There's that human component that, I think is really crucial to continuing to have a nice championship culture.
Yeah, the human aspect's so important, right? I mean, some of the girls that I've coached when they went on their visit, like you said, they know right away. Like, oh, I love hanging out with these girls. I could see myself going there, hanging out with the girls. And then some are like, yeah, I couldn't connect with them. I couldn't vibe with them. And it's like, I don't want to go to a school where I can't even get along with the players. Not that I can't get along with them, but I just don't have that connection with them. So that's a
Yep.
huge part of the recruitment process. Um, like you mentioned, after you've been evaluated talent wise, right? So you still have to have the
Right.
talent to go somewhere. But then after that, it's like, can you get along with the kids? Do you see yourself going to workouts, practice, study hall, weights, trainings, open gyms? Can you see yourself with this person? I mean, a majority of the day, really.
For sure. And even in that space too, I think, I mean, our campus is very nice. We are very fortunate to have great facilities. And so a lot of times once people get here, well, one, they've never been here before. So they're like, wow, I didn't even know this was here. They've probably come close and played a high school game at Marin Catholic or
Mhm.
Branson, which is, very close in proximity, but they were never on campus.
Yeah.
So the beautification of campus has been outstanding, and the improvements that have been made, only, elevate what we are as a program and an institution. So a lot of times when people get here, they can kind of see themselves. And then if they do appreciate the vibe that the team has, a lot of times it's a successful visit. But yeah, I think that matters. I think for a player to be able to go somewhere and be able to envision themselves going through like everything you mentioned, right? Like going to class and going to training. There's something to be said about, knowing that it's a right fit. For me, when I went on my visit to East Bay, we were walking out of the gym, and the view of there is incredible, and there just happened to be this really beautiful sunset, and I was like, yeah, I'm in. Like, there was
Yeah.
that was just one of the things. I was like, this is a great visit. I really had a good time with the coaching staff, and I was just like, yeah, I'm sold. So
Talk a little bit about like being a JUCO product yourself, and then coaching at the JUCO level, but also coaching at the D2 level, and how you can really connect with your players because JUCO's not easy, right? I mean, I think they think a lot of people think, oh, it's JUCO basketball. You can just anyone can play. That's definitely not the case. We've seen JUCO, and there's a ton of talent at the JUCO level. So I mean, can you help us clear up that misconception of like, oh, it's just JUCO basketball?
yeah, I mean, the more I can talk about this, the better, right? I feel like I agree that the misconception is huge, especially the high level of recruitable athletes we've had coming out of California in the last couple of years. I mean, I think we had over 20 Division 1 women's basketball players in this last sophomore class. So, I mean, there's a great caliber of player here. So, I think where it gets a little bit skewed is because just like any league or any conference, right? There's always going to be teams that maybe aren't as strong. And so, I think sometimes people focus more on those instead of like the great things that, I'll throw out a couple of schools like Delta women's basketball in Stockton, consistently high level each year, making it to the Elite Eight. College of Sequoia, very highly competitive. And then last year's champion, Mount Sac, just, have all been consistently good and playing at a high level and putting out really, really good players. So I think that, for myself as a young coach, and those coaches have been coaching for, well, some of them were coaching when I was playing. So that just kind of tells you how the longevity of their excellence. But, it's making sure that we're developing the player. I think that, part of what a good junior college coach does is we're looking to help elevate their skills, elevate their game, and maybe open up some opportunities that weren't there when they first came to us, either right out of high school or after their first year playing. So I do view that as a huge mark. And the more that we can do that, but beyond basketball, sometimes players come here and then they're okay with just going to school after they played for 2 years, which is also great. That's everyone's journey is a little bit different. Everyone's path takes them to different places. I mean, like I mentioned, we have a lot of players who are nursing majors or biology majors because they want to go into the medical field. So, um, you know, their their time in school is going to be a lot longer than others, and so to be able to have the experience of playing competitively at the college level, and then also getting a great education, and whether you're continuing on and playing and getting your education or just continuing to go to school, like either one is a win. And so I think as a junior college coach, you're trying to do both, right? So you're mentoring them both as humans and athletes, but also as students too, because that's what's going to take them on and allow them to start a really great career.
Yeah, I'm a huge JUCO advocate, especially like in here in Sacramento, there's so many really talented JUCOs,
Yeah,
all within 30, 45 minutes with Sierra, Folsom, CRC, Delta, and then you go up a little further, with the Marin, Santa Rosa. There's just so many JUCOs. There's so much talent. But also some kids need JUCO first. Like we have to keep it real with them too, right? Sometimes maybe they're not quite mature enough to go to a 4 year. Maybe their academics weren't quite right to go to a 4 year. Maybe they just, JUCO sometimes is the right fit. They might be
yeah,
going to a 4 year after year one, after year two, but sometimes they need JUCO, and that's completely okay, right? I mean, I think people just think like, oh, I don't need to be a JUCO. I could go straight to a 4 year. Well, sometimes you can go to a JUCO and actually play for 2 years and then go straight to a 4 year and play, right? Instead
play.
of going to a 4 year as your freshman year, not playing, maybe losing the love for the game, having to transfer, then you have to figure out your academics and do my units transfer over with me? And to your point, as always, is like maybe that wasn't the right fit to start.
Right. And I think that's a really valid point. I think that, junior colleges kind of get put on the back burner, right? as a junior college coach, I've seen people wait and wait and wait around for offers from bigger schools. And, I am not one to ever try to discourage someone's aspirations or dreams. But like you said, sometimes the best fit or the right plan for you might be to go and continue to enhance your skills, right? Because at the end of the day, the college coaches are all looking at similar things, right? We're evaluating the foundation of your fundamentals. We're evaluating your ability to score, your shot selection, evaluating if you're able to create good spacing on the floor and like have good off ball movement, which is something that I'm not sure like everyone can do that. So I mean that's huge. But also, can you finish with your left and right hand with contact? Are you, there's so many things. And so when players go, well, what can I work on? I'm like, anything you want, like anything that you want to be really great at. And, working with 360 hoop athletes, that's where we get to help players identify some of those maybe gaps, and allow them to get a little bit more insight building that recruiting plan and like what actually needs to happen. And depending on, where they're at with the recruiting process, whether they're freshmen, sophomores, where they're being identified and putting themselves in, competitive situations where they're exposed to college coaches, which then leads to, okay, now those college coaches have you on your radar. And now you have the chance to be compared to like basketball players like yourselves, which hopefully when you continue to, work on those strengths and make those strides in the right direction, then you can get an offer and, towards your junior and senior year. But I think that nothing should be off the table, right? Especially, there's always a place you can go, but you always have to be doing little things to create some really great habits because I think players sometimes once they get that commitment and they're at a place, it's like, well, you still got to continue to work.
Yes.
It's like you're still working on your game. You're still getting in the gym. You're still in the weight room, working on getting stronger, quicker, faster. It's not that work is never done just because you've gotten the commitment or you're now playing at the college level. So I think it's really with 360 hoop athletes, it's instilling those good habits and helping, not only have them be really fierce competitors, but also give them that unstoppable mindset so they can compete confidently. Because things are going to happen in the course of that college career that are going to be really hard to overcome, and there's going to be stress and adversity. And so, making sure that they have the right mindset and the correct functions in order to allow them to play in the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is a debatable topic, but I think if you're going to D2, D3, NAIA, even JUCO, if you committed already, I think you should still play AAU your senior year. And I know a lot of are like, well, you're already committed, like let the other kids play. But like you still, and if you're playing on the right team, you can still develop. You still have to work on your game before you get to college. And so I think even if you're up to the D2 level, I think you should still play AAU as a senior. And I know a lot of people are not going to agree with this, but which is fine. But I think there's still a great opportunity for you to develop, work on your leadership skills, maybe mentor the next group of kids. What's your thoughts on that?
That you're right, highly debatable topic, but for me, and it's all coaches are different. I think, I remember coaches holding out players who signed, just because they didn't want them to get injured. But I think that creates sort of a really bad narrative in a player's head if they're not playing because they don't want to get hurt, right? It's a contact sport. There always is a risk of that, and we hope that it doesn't happen. But especially in women's basketball, knee injuries are a lot more frequent. But I think the idea like, oh, we don't want to play because we don't want to get hurt. I think that players need to play as much as possible. Whether, if it's in that formal, if it's AAU in that senior year, or if they're in a rec league, or they need to play. I think that's one of the biggest differences I see, or even like I remember hunting down, trying to find a gym to go play in, right? Remember when I was playing at East Bay, every, 2 times a week in the summer, we would drive over to College of San Mateo just to get runs in, right? I don't know that that is like the mindset of players now, where we had open runs at College of Marin that were put on by an outside organization this summer. And no, not a lot of my players were here. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like this is the fun part. So I don't know why there's not that want or need to play. I mean, if my knees would allow, I would 100% still go and play. It just takes a while to recover now. But no, I think that, especially like you said, to focus on creating better skills, your leadership qualities. Now you're one of the oldest players, on the floor. You can direct things. And I think it's really important for them to keep playing as often as possible, because the jump from high school to the college level is really large. And it doesn't matter if you're going from, high school to D1, high school to D2, high school to JUCO. There is a gap, there is a jump. And it's, one of those things where if you're playing and you're working on those skills throughout your spring and summer leading up to going to your first training in the fall, I think that's only going to help you. But I know a lot of coaches would disagree with me also.
But I think it's working with the coach also though, right? So like if I'm an AAU coach, I'm gonna go and ask, hey, what is Sally gonna be working on? What should she be working on so she's ready to play as a freshman? And then have her work on those things. If it's a post player, maybe she has to catch and shoot at the mid range. Maybe she has to be able to run the offense from the top of the key and be able to make certain passes. Maybe it's she has to set certain screens. Like it would have to be in unison with the college coach and making sure that you're working on things and then not just like, oh yeah, do whatever you want and you should play. Well, there has to be some structure to it as well. And I think that can really help a kid out. Like maybe we run one of the sets you run at college. We're gonna put that in and now she can execute it and see the reads for it. And like same for a point guard. Okay, well now you know where everyone has to be. That's a huge positive for a point guard going into a program when they're going to have to learn a whole new system. So I think
Right.
there's a place
Yep.
for it. I know it's like, not necessarily the right. It's an unpopular opinion, I believe, but I think there could be a place that's right for it as well.
Agree. Yeah, they have to play as much as possible. It's just that's how you get better, and like you said, making those reads and figuring out what floor spacing looks like and being able to create opportunities for your teammates when you don't have the basketball. There are lots of things that they can focus on that are going to help them be valuable going in as freshmen. So absolutely, I think it's crucial.
Yeah, and especially if you're a scorer too, right? Because you're not going to be that scorer when you get to college. So being able to play off the ball, being able to play without the ball in your hands, like I think there's things that can really help them out going forward. So talk, I mean, you were a JUCO product, but also you were a captain, and you went into East Bay your junior year, and you were, I believe, a captain as a junior. Is that correct?
As a senior, I was,
As a
yes.
senior. Okay. So
Yeah.
go, I mean, talking about like being more ready to play. So how did JUCO prepare you to play at East Bay and then eventually becoming a captain as a senior?
Yeah, I think that it was the level of competition that we played when I was at Butte did prepare me for what we were going to see when I got to East Bay. I think just um, the one thing I probably wasn't, prepared for was just how different it is and how much more competitive it is within your team once you get to a 4 year.
Mm,
We also had quite a few JUCO players when
okay.
I got to East Bay in my recruiting class. So it was a solid combination of freshmen and juniors, but there's a little bit more pressure when you go in and you have 1 or 2 years left of eligibility. You've gained a lot of knowledge, so you also have, that as your upper hand, but it's pretty challenging to go in. You're learning a whole new system. You're kind of like a little bit of a freshman all over again because
Yeah.
it's a new program and that kind of thing. But um, we it was very structured, so I was, able to adapt in that way. I was playing point guard, and I played behind one of the greatest point guards in the country that year, who could shoot very well from three and was one of the national leaders and assist. So, it wasn't necessarily going to be my job to come in and do really great things all season. So I had to learn that kind of the hard way, and that was a huge adjustment. But also, being able to recognize that there were a lot of other things that I could give to the team and provide, even though, I didn't get as much time on the floor that junior year. Is obviously like everyone wants to go to college so they can do that.
Right.
But I didn't do my homework either, where I could have looked and seen, oh, this person's been there since she was a freshman and she has these stats, and have that play into what the right fit was for me, right? Maybe, I mean, again, I loved it at East Bay. I loved it there. There was, no other place I really could have imagined in hindsight going, just because of the relationships and obviously like how it's also helped my coaching career. But, maybe if I had had a little bit more guidance and help navigating the recruiting process, looking at, well, what's the roster look like? How many people are coming back? And then having someone help me ask the right questions when I'm talking to coach. Like, how many people are you bringing into my position? What do you see? Questions that now I tell all of my sophomores
Yeah.
to go and
Right.
ask because I think it's really important. But, things that I didn't know what I didn't know. And I think that, having conversations and giving people the information, it's not only going to help players, find the right fit and go to the right place the first time and not have to transfer and be in the portal every year. But it also is going to help coaches, because coaches want, what's going to be the right fit for their program and help them win more games. And they want those players there. And so I think it can, giving the information out, and like, I don't know if it's like secret sauce or what, and why everyone's been so, hush hush about it. But I think it's really important to help players navigate the recruitment process in that way.
Who was the coach that you played for at East Bay?
Sarah Judd.
Okay. And then who was the player that was the your point guard in front of you?
Oh, Amy Elliott. She was so good.
But I
Yeah.
think that's huge though, right? Like I tell kids, if they have a all league returning guard and you're thinking that you're going to just come in and beat them out, that's really hard to do. It's
Mm-hmm.
really hard,
Yeah.
right? But you can
Mm-hmm.
still learn a lot from them, right? But you have to know what you're getting into, right? And if you're willing to go in, learn, and you say, "Hey, I get to play behind like an all-American guard, but I'm going to learn a lot." And then when she graduates, then I'm going to be ready to go.
Yep.
Then all of a sudden, now your mindset's a little bit different going into it versus maybe going through thinking, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna start or I'm gonna play a lot," and then you get there and you're like, "Oh wow, this girl's really good," and maybe I'm not gonna get to play. Now your mindset all of a sudden changes a lot. So, yeah, I mean,
Yep.
we always encourage our kids, do your research, please. Like, it's so important in finding the right fit.
Yep.
And I'm sure you tell all your
100%.
JUCO kids the exact same thing. It's like, you can't just pick a school out of a hat and say, oh, yeah, I want to go here. It's
Right. It looks cool.
more
It's
to
by a
it.
beach, right? Like, no, we have to be a little bit more investigative than that. But yeah, I mean, even you know, talking to our sophomores early on, we've already started with our class this year, like make a list, make a list of schools, make a list like maybe schools, like for sure schools, your backup schools, right? Having those open conversations, I think are really important, and just, allowing them to articulate, what actually might be the right fit, and maybe what the right fit is for them now wasn't the right fit for them when they were coming out of high school. So I think also being open to that change, right? Which is also part of just adjusting your mindset and making sure that, you're in the right space, you're making the decision, with all of the information and all the things that you need to do the best thing for yourself.
Yeah, and so talk a little bit about your about 360 Hoop Athletes. I've gotten to learn a little bit more about it, and I think it's an amazing thing that you have going on. Can you talk a little bit more about that and what that is?
Yeah, so it's, again, providing more information for our basketball student athletes as well as for their parents. So, there's a lot of misconceptions about recruiting, and frankly, people can get lost in just trying to navigate the entire process. And I feel like each year it starts younger and younger and younger, where, they want, you got to play on a certain travel ball team, and you've got to, there's a lot of got tos. You got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. And so just sort of giving an honest insight from myself as a basketball coach, and then also our founder 360 athlete, Coach Ashley Carter, who's been coaching softball for as long as longer than I've been coaching basketball, and she's coached everything from Division 1 to Division 3, NAIA, kind of the whole gamut of college athletics. So, but it really is to help players not only elevate their skills as far as like what they need to do to continue to enhance that skill set, but to create good habits, but also enhancing their mindset so they have the confidence to go and do what they're really good at. It's identifying what their strengths are, right? And then they can, once they know what their strengths are, they can look to improve those strengths, but also identify programs that need those things. And those coaches who they do have good conversations with, that they formed a good relationship through the recruitment process. I think also players can really use social media to their advantage. They're so good with social media, and they can use that as just an absolute automatic insight into who they are as a basketball player, what they bring to the table. And coaches do look at social media. So, kind of teaching them how to have a good social media presence and have that be a positive versus a negative, because a lot of times, things get posted or put out there that maybe you don't want college coaches to see. So, really building up that sport specific page, talking about highlight tapes, what to feature, maybe what not to feature. It's kind of like when you're going through your reels, right? If you don't have someone's attention in 3 seconds, they're going to keep going. So the highlight tape is the same way. So helping them become that, unstoppable human athlete competitor in every way is really our goal. And that's, it's rewarding for us as coaches because that's what we do. It's what we want to do. But I think as coaches, you have so much knowledge because you've been on the other side of the recruitment process. And so, helping others out who are just getting started is hopefully people will find value in that.
Yeah, it's super valuable. I mean, everyone needs it, honestly. Mindset, so important. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Mindset. I mean, if you don't have the right mindset going into any situation, it can make or break you. So
For sure.
having that right mindset, having those discussions about it, figuring out what your strengths are, and then really just helping them with that whole recruitment process, right? Because we tell kids it's never really too early to start your recruitment process. If you're an incoming freshman, you should be reaching out to coaches already. Like it's not too early to start reaching out to coaches. They can't necessarily respond back to you and get on the call
Right.
with you, but you can get on their radar, right? And so
Hmm.
getting on their radar, and then 2 years down the road, when it's the summer after your sophomore year, now they can actually call you. It's like, oh yeah, well I've been following you for 2 years. I haven't been able to reach out because of recruiting rules. But I think even kids understanding like when those time periods are, they're like, as a freshman, you're not
Absolutely.
getting that call, and you're not supposed to. You can't. It's illegal. So you're not
Yeah.
getting a call from a D1 coach. So
Yeah.
when they think, oh, my sophomore year, I played really well. Well, it's March of your sophomore year. You're still not going to get that call yet.
Yeah, got a couple more months. And I think that's the you make a good point, is just exposing yourself, right? And allowing, putting yourself in competitive situations where you're allowing yourself to be identified. And
Mhm.
maybe that's, a lot of times it's going to be through your AAU or travel ball team, because college coaches can go and sit in one place all day and see hundreds of players. And that is just the easiest way for them to expose themselves to as many people as they can, which it makes sense. And then I think the other thing to recommend too, especially like sophomores, go to like to the elite camps, or camps on college campuses. Maybe there's a few colleges that you've identified that you really like, maybe, but you don't know anything about their basketball program. Well, go to their camp, right? I mean, we a lot of camps will tell you when you go, oh, we found, this player was a camper and this player was a camper. And it's true, it does happen, but it's another opportunity for you to be identified, evaluated because you're right there on campus with the coaching staff. And then, again, maybe that leads to a call on June 15th after your sophomore year. Maybe, you'll get that call a couple months later, but just continuing to put yourself in those situations where you have the opportunity to be seen. And that's again, I think why social media and the ability that some of these younger people have to with their technology is amazing. I am not good with technology, so I'm always impressed by what they're able to do. But utilize that. That's a space where you can really use that as your resume and advertise yourself, and allow yourself to make yourself, be put in that situation where you are on their radar and you'll be contacted. Yeah.
Yeah, social media, I mean, it could be really good or it could also hurt your recruitment as well, right? We tell kids,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm sitting on the baselines recording, a coach will say, "Hey, what's that kid's Instagram?" If they can't find you when you tell them their name and their year, then how do you expect all these coaches to find you? Like,
Yeah.
and then if you're on private, and I get, sometimes social media are private, but make one that's public for your basketball then. If you don't want your personal life to be out there in public, that's fine, but make a basketball
Sure.
one that is public because I can't tell you how many times a coach has said, "Hey, do you know that girl?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." And then they're like, "Oh, what's her Instagram?" So they're going to look at your Instagram before they even talk to you. So if your Instagram has
100%.
some crazy stuff on it, that's a easy way to get yourself eliminated from being recruitment before you even get a chance to talk to the coach. So if you don't have, if your Instagram page is not your best foot forward, you should probably revamp your Instagram page or at least your basketball page. At minimum, your basketball page. It should be your private also, but at least your basketball page, because coaches look at that first and before they even talk to you, before they even talk to your coach.
Yep. I absolutely agree with you. And I think I had said this about a week ago. When you're going through as a coach and you're looking and you may not be looking for anything specific, but you're just, going through videos and you're on social media. It is so simple to just have your username or handle be your first, your last name, and your grad year. Because right away, as a coach, I am given so much insight into what I'm looking at, right? So then if I'm, for us, like obviously we're very deep into 2026s right now, right? So it's great to know that when I look before I even click on your Instagram page, when I'm looking that you are a 2026. And then I have your first and last name and I can tap into anything else I want, at that point. But it's so discouraging, if you tap on a name, like maybe I'm at a tournament and I see a name and then the name comes up on Instagram. But if I hit it and it's private, it's like now I gotta wait, request, and it is very discouraging. I've already moved on to the next
Uh,
person, right? So yeah, making those pages public I think is huge. And the other thing I would say is just add on like your club team, tag your club
yeah.
team in your bio. Tag, if your school team has a page, tag them in your bio. Again, it just provides me with so much information, and I've only had to make one click, and it just allows me to go, oh, well, they play on this team. Oh, well, are they playing on court A tomorrow? And I already know who I'm going to see, and I can make that plan. So it's so easy to make that accessible, and I think it's just such a great tool for not only the recruitable athlete, but also for coaches to be able to utilize.
Yeah, because if it's private, like you said, you're gonna move on to the next kid. And if
Yeah.
you guys are both similar, well, guess what? I'm probably gonna go recruit the kid that's easily more accessible. So, and I think to your point of putting like their AAU team, their high school team, I would even put like their coaches, right? Tag their
Yeah.
coaches there. And also a huge thing is put your jersey number with that club team
Yes.
because unfortunately, the college books, there's a lot of wrong information in there. So a coach would be like, well, this kid's not in there. What number is she? Well, she's not 5'11", so that's not her. But she has the wrong jersey number then. And so putting
Yeah.
jersey number, well, first of all, making sure you put all that information in correctly when you register and all that, that's important.
Yeah. Sure. Right.
After that, let's make sure it's in your Instagram page. That way, when the coach clicks and they say, "Oh yeah, they play on Cal Stars, she's number 24," I can look and see, okay, yeah, 17U, Cal Stars 24. Okay, perfect, got it. And then I can match that player up. So I think that's huge to just have the information on your page readily available with the correct information. If your jersey number changes for the tournament, update your Instagram page. I mean, it's
Yeah, super easy, right? And
pretty
it's
simple,
so simple.
but it doesn't always happen. And so just, trying to have athletes hear this and like just keep your information up to date. Like that's huge.
Yep. And I think too, I think with 360 hoop athletes, that's what we want to do, and it could be, like you said, something so simple, but it's going to make a big difference in their recruitment process, right? I mean, it could be the difference between a coach having the chance or taking the time to evaluate them and not. So just doing these small, simple things and trying to get the word out there about what they are. It's one of those things where as a coach, someone who recruits, if I can help out some athletes in doing that, even beyond our team, I want to do that.
Yeah. And so talk a little bit about your program. Like what's the length of it? What's the structure of it? How can people get more information about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we want to do is we want to have a really a good rapport. So it's very important. So a one-on-one session with myself each week. It's usually we go for 3 months, and we start to work through, developing some of those key aspects to allowing you to play confidently. So focusing in on what your strengths are, right? Growing that confidence. So identifying those strengths, making sure that we're elevating that current skill set. So giving you different things to work on. And then advancing those skills, and again, depending on where you are in that recruitment process, freshman through senior, but making sure that we're elevating those skills into high level habits that are going to make you recruitable to college coaches. I think that that's really really key. So providing players with that, and then also helping out with the recruiting process as far as tools to help execute a specific individualized recruiting plan. So everyone's recruiting path is a little bit different. So including that specific plans for different schools and like what schools or AAU teams, camps to target, helping out with all of those questions because there's so many, and trying to differentiate between all of them and decide what to do, when to do it. That's also a big part of it. Um, the social media presence that we were talking about, making sure that, you're providing credibility, making sure that what you're showing coaches through your sport specific page is consistent, and what to do to make sure that, it's presented in a way that's going to get you recruited and not rejected because of what you're putting out there. We also have online modules. So as you're working with me each week, you're going to be working through and getting some basketball homework on how to advance and increase your mindset. So I think sport is very reflective of life, right? Basketball is an imperfect sport. Life can at times be imperfect. So assisting you with navigating a lot of the adversity and different things that come up, it's all about training your mindset and where you go with your mind training when things like aren't going well, right? It's kind of like when one team's going on a run, right? And the basket seems like it's so big because they just keep going on a run and things are going really well. It's like, how do you turn the tide? What do you go to? What fundamentals or principles do you have in place to help get back to your, relying on that training, your reps, and being able to play confidently with flow and not, being consumed with pressure, anxiety, and those kind of things. So providing those tools to really create a recruitable athlete with just an unstoppable mindset. And that's what we want to do.
Yeah, and I think to your point, it's more than just the basketball part too, right? You're gonna be able to take these lessons to your everyday life forever, right? It's not just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, I'll only be able to use it when I'm playing basketball, and then in the real world it doesn't apply. It definitely applies
Right.
in the real world as well.
Definitely applies. Yeah. And I think too, that's, one of the beauties of being a coach is you get players that come back and they tell you about, you know, either players who have gone on to play or players who have moved on into the business world after their playing careers, they're successful because of things that they learned in
Oh
your
yeah.
program. And they're like, as a coach, I just think there is nothing better than to hear that you had an impact that was, so significant and so great, based on how you run your program and your culture. So that's the best reward possible.
That's a huge reward, right? That's a huge bonus
Mm-hmm.
reward as a coach. I always love when kids or players, former players, come back to me and ask me about business, right? Because having my MBA, they're like, "Coach, okay, I know I don't play for you anymore, but can we still talk about business?" I'm like, "Absolutely!" Like, and I love it, right? And they're asking
Yeah.
questions and how to run a business, and it's like, yes, like those are of course, as coaches, we're competitive. Everyone coaches competitive. We want to win on the court. But these off the court wins, like they mean so much to a coach. I mean, I love when they come talking to me about like, can you help me with this? Can you help me with media? I want to get into media. Can you teach me how to
Yeah.
do the media game? And it's like, yeah, absolutely. Like, we try to just help anyone that, that wants help. So, and then what age group is your program for? Is there a specific age where it starts?
Usually high school age athletes. So, I mean, in eighth grade, like we're happy to help out. I mean, once you're, getting into that identifiable exposure stage, which is,
Yep.
usually that freshman, sophomore year is key. Even the jump between like eighth grade year to freshman,
Mhm.
making sure that you're playing and being seen and things like that. So, yeah, I think that's really the area where we can have the most positive impact, right? It's the I think the players have the most questions, and all the way through senior year. In fact, coach is working with some senior athletes right now that are going on official visits and, helping them navigate through those because that's, a whole nother component, right? Is after you've been identified and they've initiated contact with you and they want you to be part of that program. Well, planning those official and unofficial visits and weighing out some of those options. And I think that's where it's important to have someone who reminds you of like, hey, well, you said that, it's this reason that this program is going to be a good fit for you. Does that program have it? Or are you just impressed with all of the, shiny things that they're showing you on the visit and just kind of like taking them through that, right? Because, I think on the visit, you get shown everyone's best, right?
Absolutely.
And I think it's remembering what's important to you, thinking about, what you want your potential career to look like. And I think, asking these questions now is really great because I think by not asking them, that's why we have so many basketball players in the transfer portal each year. It's people not identifying some of these reasons for choosing a specific school or program or coaching staff. And if we can eliminate some of those, transferring or transferable athletes, maybe we can like people can just have better experiences because I think for the most part that's why a lot of people are in the portal, right? It's because the
100%.
experience wasn't what they wanted. So let's try to get you the right experience the first time if we can.
If we can. Yeah. And ask the hard questions, please. Like it's if it's uncomfortable, so what? You have to ask the hard questions now because the worst thing is you get onto campus and then you start, your actual official practices November, October, November, and then you start having these conversations and they're not the answers you want to hear. It's too late. You're already on
Right.
campus. You're already with that program. And so if you think asking the questions in the beginning is uncomfortable, how do you think those conversations when you're already on campus are going to feel? It's going to be 10 times
Right.
more uncomfortable, 10 times harder to ask those questions when you're already on campus. You've already paid your tuition, you've already paid all your dues. That's a hard conversation. So, as
Yeah.
much as you
Yeah.
think other conversations are hard, you have to figure out how to get those questions answered earlier, as early as possible, to your point. Like, and let's see if we can help these kids find the right fit. So I think your program is amazing for those kids to help guide them and understand like what questions are important for you to get answered. And
Yeah.
when you went on that visit, did you get those questions answered or did we not get those
Right.
questions answered yet? Because we
Yeah. Or
need
was
that
it just like we got wined and dined and it was really fun and like it was a great weekend, right? So yeah, yeah, I agree. It's very important. Very important.
because I don't know too many coaches that will say on a visit, "Hey, I love your game, but I don't think you're gonna play, and I would still want you to come." Like you're not gonna be able to. You're getting sold on a dream, honestly, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I think parents, kids have to see through all the fluff, right, and figure out what's real and what's yeah, I just want you to come to our school. Well, as a student athlete, you have to be able to try to see through all of that. And I know it's hard. I know it's hard. 100%. I mean,
Absolutely.
coaches recruit kids for a living. That's their job.
Yeah.
But
Right.
they'll have to figure out where you are truly the right fit. And it's really hard to do because you are getting wine and dine. You're getting the best showing. They're doing everything personalized just for you. They are going to get you your favorite candy. They are going to talk about your favorite movie. They are going to take you to your favorite food. So all that is already going to happen. It should
Yep.
happen already. So now you have to
Hmm.
look past that and see, okay, now does the coach truly care about me as a person and as a basketball player on this program?
Yep. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I think that most hoopers would say like that's absolutely what matters, and I think, like everyone wants to go into it and have a really great experience. And I think that the really positive thing about the transfer portal is that if you truly just go and you don't, and maybe some of those questions were answered, maybe they weren't, but maybe it just didn't work out and you have the opportunity to leave. I feel like that is the purpose. That is what is so great about it, because sometimes that happens, right? But I think that we can put a little bit more effort into making sure that everyone has the tools to really ensure that this is our best foot forward. This is going to be like a good experience, right? So,
Let's end with one final advice you would give to, let's say, an eighth or ninth grader that says, Coach, I really want to play college basketball. What's one piece of advice you can give them that can help them guide them through that process?
yeah, I think that is just a pivotal age. I think at that time I knew that I also wanted to play. And so, um, two things I would say is do that. Play as much as you can. Play up, play with older people. For me, my dad always coached boys teams, so I would practice with the boys teams all the time. Like anything I could do to increase the level of competition I was playing against, that's only going to help enhance your skills. And the second thing I would say is it's a really important age to master some of those fundamentals. So you want to have a great foundation of fundamentals so that when you go to the next level and you're playing in high school and playing on varsity as a lower classman, you already have that base. So then you can continue to add on, right? Add on things every summer and every spring that's going to enhance your game. So, you enhance your fundamentals, you're a well-rounded player, you play on both sides of the ball, you maybe have a go-to move, then you develop a counter move, right? You want to have all of those things. And so I just think it's so important to have just the foundation and have those fundamentals mastered. And that comes with reps, right? So you're playing as much as you can and just getting in and having those reps. I think that one thing that we talk to our team a lot is just forming good habits. Like if we didn't form good habits in the spring and the summer and you weren't making time to come into the gym on your own and get better, you're not going to have the reps that we need you to have when it comes time to score a bucket in December and January. And so when you're younger and even like eighth, ninth grade, before you're entering that identification exposure phase of the recruiting process, having those reps and already creating those habits are going to help you elevate that skill set as you continue to move up to higher levels. And so that would be the thing that I would do. I would tell my past self to do as well. So
I love it. Thank you so much. It's yeah, play against better competition. Don't worry about the wins and losses. Just develop. But you heard it, kids. Work on your fundamentals. You're never going to be too good
Mhm.
to work on fundamentals. I mean, even at college program, they're still working on fundamentals. So if
Every
in high
day.
school, middle school, you think you're too good for fundamentals, you are sadly mistaken. Keep working on the fundamentals. It's going to take you a long way. But again, I want to say thank you so much. It was awesome hearing your story, getting some inspiration for the kids. We wish you the best of luck this season. We'll be following. But also for your program, 360 underscore hoop athletes. Make sure you guys all give that a follow, support if you guys need help with the recruitment process. Reach out to Coach Emily and just talk about it. Talk about the recruitment process.
Yeah.
See how that program can really help you out. It's going to be a great program. It's beneficial for kids, parents, families. They all need it. So give that definitely take a look at that.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great. We could talk hoop all day for sure.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.